one thing that's extremely important, and you get to choose, is your cryptocurrency exchange. You get to choose which cryptocurrency exchange you want to use, and we're going to learn about that here in this section. And basically, an exchange is where you buy and sell cryptocurrency. It's where the trading actually happens. So let's learn a little bit about cryptocurrency exchanges as we build out this section of the course. So you have different types of cryptocurrency exchanges. The most common one, and what you'll probably be mostly involved with, I would say almost 99% of people would be, is what's called centralized exchanges, or CX. A lot of times you'll see them listed as the spot market, or they're known as the spot market for trading. And that's a cryptocurrency platform for an exchange platform run by a company, right? So there's somebody, you can see some examples of some companies here on the right side, like Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, others, Bitfinex, others. And there's many different exchanges out there, and they run the exchange and they facilitate the trading of cryptocurrency. And so when you think about trading crypto, where you do it, what most people think of is the exchange. And when they really think of that, they're really thinking of a centralized exchange. Like, okay, I buy and sell my crypto on Coinbase or Coinbase Pro or on Binance, So that's what they think of, like when they're thinking of an exchange, is they're thinking of a centralized exchange, and typically what you'll be looking at and learning about and using. But there are a couple other different types of exchanges too to be aware of. One is what's called the DEX, or decentralized exchanges, and basically they're an alternative to a traditional centralized exchange. And so the platform is more decentralized. That's why it's called a centralized exchange, and it doesn't depend on a company or service to really kind of manage it. It's more self-managed, more decentralized. It's very much a peer-to-peer type thing. You can see some of the ones on the right here, some of the popular decentralized exchanges out there. They have interesting names like Sushi Swap and Pancake Swap, and yes, there's a Burger Swap even. So with these decentralized ones, it's more about people one-to-one looking for each other and it's transferring their cryptocurrency between people, basically swapping back and forth. Versus, let's say, more so trading and looking, getting to a wide world out there in a centralized exchange. But there are decentralized exchanges out there, but it is different, and that's something most people are going to get involved with unless they're really trying to swap, especially large amounts of currency. Sometimes they might be using it that way, to move it around. But for regular traders like you and I, you'll be looking more at a centralized exchange instead of a decentralized exchange. And then lastly, there are what are called derivative exchanges. So these are exchanges, and sometimes they can be a centralized exchange that offers that service, like Binance, for example. You see it was on both lists. What derivative exchanges do is they tend to specialize in trading certain types of trading situations. So if you're interested in trading futures or forwards or swaps, or certainly options is very popular. If you want to trade options with cryptocurrency, that's where a derivative exchange might come into play. And basically a derivative is it's more of a contract, really. It's a financial contract between two or more parties based on the future price of an underlying asset. Let's think about options, option to buy, option to sell, based on future prices. And a lot of times they're used to hedge risk, or a lot of times actually used to speculate on the price of an underlying asset in case it changes. And a lot of times with options and other types of derivatives, you can have greater returns, but you can also have much, much greater losses too. Very risky on there. I have a link to an interesting little article that kind of gets into detail about derivatives and cryptocurrency and explains it in a nice little short way. So you can check out that article if you're interested in learning more about futures, forward swaps, and options. But the key takeaway from this part is that you need an exchange for that to happen. And you have these specialized derivative exchanges. And so many people, they love to trade, let's say, option stuff, might be on one exchange for their centralized trades, their traditional trades, and then might be on another, let's say, for something that's, is more of a derivative exchange that caters to that and will allow that, basically. And then you have like the big exchange, like Binance is a real big exchange that offers both, as an example. Okay, so now that you know the different types of exchanges out there, let's now look at from these broad types. Now let's look at individual exchanges themselves and what to kind of look for. So you can make a good choice, because again, you get to pick the exchange you want to work with and be trading on. So when you're looking at a cryptocurrency exchange in terms of, who do you want to work with and how, who do you want to, basically use as your trading platform, there's a couple of key things to look for in terms of deciding what exchange to go for. So let's take a look at that here. So a couple of things, and really the first most important thing to look for, actually two important things, number one and number two, is does it support the cryptocurrencies that you want to trade, right? Not all cryptocurrencies are listed on all exchanges. The most popular ones like Bitcoin and Ethereum, you're pretty much going to find in most exchanges, if not all of them. But some of the lesser known coins that you might be interested in, if they're not being traded or not available to you, then you might want to pass on an exchange. You want to trade what interests you, right? And that they have a large amount of choices maybe that you can choose from as far as different cryptocurrencies that you can trade is a nice advantage for many exchanges. Also, does it support the fiat currency that you want to use, that you might use to initial fund your, let's say, your trading account, with whether it's dollars or rupees or pounds or euros, that money that ports in, that you bring in, that you'll then convert, let's say, into cryptocurrency, and then trade with it, that it supports that, right? So that it supports the type of money you want to use. And a big part of that is that supporting the country that you live in. And a lot of times, if you go into an exchange and it doesn't support the country you live in, you'll just immediately get a pop-up and it'll say, it seems you live outside the ABC exchange, country, whatever, or approved countries, please look at a different exchange or this might not be for you. Usually there'll be a pop-up for that warning you like, hey, you don't want to sign up here, it's not going to work out. But you also want to look at your due diligence too and make sure that the exchange is supporting your country too. A lot of times you can just search on the web page, it'll list countries are supported at the very bottom where they have a lot of detailed stuff. You can usually find a link there as far as finding that, or just Google search exchange name and country supported. You can usually find it that way too. So it supports the fiat money that you want, your country, and the cryptocurrency you want too. And then also look at the exchange in terms of, okay, the strength of the exchange itself. You want to look at like market cap of the exchange, and you can see these total market caps. We'll show you some examples here in a moment. In market cap, again, it's the price of a cryptocurrency times the circulating supply or the number of coins or tokens that are out there. And so for an exchange, it's the total market cap and the total prices all together. And some exchanges are very, very big and some are very, very small. Very big ones are very established, lots of people trading at. A lot more security around that's built in there because it gets so much in there, and certainly a lot more liquidity if you're on a big exchange trading things versus, let's say, on a very small exchange in terms of, your transactions might not happen as quickly or you might have less choices around them. And you also want to look at some other kind of mundane things like the initial investment methods. Do you have to bring in crypto only, or could you use fiat currency to fund your initial account? So if you're getting started, this is the first time, you don't have crypto money. So, how you initially fund that from like a bank transfer someplace, even allow you to use credit cards, and there's extra fees usually around that. So look at that, but how do you initially invest it? And also with cryptocurrency, there might be some verification requirements too that are part of that. They're verifying that you are you and you live in this country. So there might be some things where they're going to look for that, and you'll see that with different exchanges, verifying that you're a real person and not some scammer or something like that. And then lastly, and we'll talk a little bit more in detail on this here, is fees. Fees can make a big difference in terms of who you want to go with in terms of exchange. And there's a lot of different fees out there, and it can get kind of confusing. So let's talk a little bit about fees, because that's what's going to kind of erode some of your profits, because these transactions may have fees associated with them. So let's talk about some of the fees you can maybe encounter when you're looking at and evaluating different cryptocurrency exchanges. One of the fees that you would see would be a trading fee. The actual, when you conduct a trade, you get charged a fee type of trade or type of fee. And there's what's called maker and taker. So a lot of times you'll see them listed as different fees for makers versus takers. Sometimes they're exactly the same. And sometimes they might be a little bit less in cost if you're, let's say, like a maker. So the idea of the difference between them is that, when you place an order at the market price for, let's say, some crypto, and it gets filled immediately. You say, I want to buy this, it gets filled immediately. You are considered a taker, and that's a different fee structure. When you place an order which is not immediately matched to an existing order, it's kind of sitting out there and it's placed in the order book waiting to be filled, and waiting for basically another customer that places an order that matches yours, and then you have that agreement and you have that trade, then you are considered a maker. The idea is not immediately filled once you place it. You got to wait a little bit for somebody to match up with you. So then you're called a maker. Makers are good. They help build the market. So sometimes they'll get a discount on that for being a maker instead of a taker. And then if you have the sometimes unusual situations, sometimes not, that if you place an order where it's partially matched immediately, you pay a taker fee for that portion. And if the remainder of the order is placed on the order book, it's not immediately matched, then you're considered a maker order. So you might have it where your fees might be split on an order because of whether it's filled immediately or not. To give you an example, this is from Coinbase as an exchange, as an example, and you can certainly look up their current fees. This lists their current fees, but they can change at any time, and how it might look when you look at other exchanges as well. This is just an example. And you can see they have different prices or different fee costs, whether you're a taker or a maker. Now, if you're in this example, under 10,000 US, you'd be paying 0.50 for each one. In fact, it's the same until you start spending, let's say, $50,000 to $100,000. If you're putting in bigger orders, you're going to pay less as a maker fee. See, we're at 0.15 versus 0.25. So depending on how much you're trading can make a difference in terms of each pricing tier, and that would be for each individual trade. So you can see, like, wow, if I have $100 million laying around, say $55 million laying around, and I want to buy crypto, for a maker, I'm at zero, and that's nice, and at 0.1 for a taker fee. So if you got your millions, be aware of those kind of fee schedules. Sometimes instead of like maker and taker fees, you might see a spread type fee. And you see that sometimes with brokers, like eToro. This example is from the eToro site. And they're a very internationally known, broker site that's around the world. Robinhood, for example, is very, very common and familiar with in the United States. eToro would be something that'd be more worldwide. And they would basically charge you a fee based on the spread. And what you'll see when you're trading is you'll see a buy price and a sell price, right? And the difference between those two prices, and they're different slightly, is the spread. That's called the spread. And the spread basically contains that part that's the commission for your broker, in this case eToro, which will charge you for the trade, right? So if, for example, you're buying a particular cryptocurrency and it's at 40, whatever your currency number, dollars, rupees, whatever, it's at 40. And the sell price at the moment is at 39.25. Well, the spread is the difference between the two, commonly known as pips, by the way. It's 75 pips, or 1.9% is also a very common way to look at it. So thus, if you bought $500 worth, the spread fee would be $9.50. But you wouldn't have a maker or taker fee on top of that, at least with eToro. So that's, again, where you want to look at the fees and what you're getting charged and what are combinations, what might not be. So this is another way that they could do fees. So you could say, like, oh, eToro doesn't have trading fees. They don't have maker-taker fees. They might even promote themselves that way. But everybody gets paid somehow in the end, and how they're paid is through a spread or a spread-based fee. Other fees that you really want to be aware of, and they can really eat away, is exchange fees, just general fees that for the exchange operations, and depending on the currency of the coins you're exchanging, they vary. They might charge you a higher fee for certain currencies you're bringing in versus other currencies where you're trading. So just be aware there's different fees around that. And then also there can be deposit and withdrawal fees. And this is the fee to deposit or withdraw funds from the exchange. It's usually cheaper to deposit, might even be free to deposit. I mean, they kind of want your money to come in, but they don't necessarily want your money to go out. So they might charge you a fee to withdraw. So before you put money in, look at the deposit withdrawal fees. And some might be allowing you deposits through credit cards. Some might not allow it at all. And if they do allow credit card transactions, that's usually an area where if you're going to make your initial buy and put it on a credit card, they're going to probably charge you a higher fee. So just be aware of that. So there's a good source for that, a good, real quick, easy, quick fee comparison tool on CoinTracker. They keep it updated. They use like the same original blog from like 2019 or something, but it's continually updated. So if you use this link, it should be updated, pretty frequently within, a month or two, maybe a little longer. But they keep it pretty quick, pretty updated. That if you want to take a quick look, overall fees to compare. But you still got to do your due diligence. And when you look at an exchange, maybe you've narrowed it down to 2 or 3 exchanges, 1 or 2, let's say 2, then you really want to compare the two in greater detail not only in fees, which is very important, but also certainly in terms of the user interface and would you enjoy using that platform. You can always change your mind later, but understand there might be fees around all that stuff, particularly like withdrawal fees if you change your mind later. So making a good choice up front and being aware of fees and all these other key things that we talked about in the beginning, country that you live in, the fiat money you use, so important. Look at those as well. Very, very important. Let's look at some websites that make it easier to research these different cryptocurrency exchanges to help you narrow down your choices. Certainly, you want to make sure the exchange is supporting in your local country or your local area is the key part. But we've got some sites here that I'm going to show you that'll make this all a lot easier. First one here is Crypto Compare, right? Just go to cryptocompare.com. You can see the link there, exchanges overview. You can find it on their site too. And they basically will, have a nice little summary thing. Maybe not as great a detail right off the front page, but a nice little summary. You can see where they've got the country there, as far as the countries, and also the different types of currencies, the volume. Bigger types of exchanges. Like we're looking at Coinbase here. You can see that's like 4 billion, almost 4 billion. That's much more secure and more established type of exchange. And there's some user reviews, and you can look deeper in that too. They have their own kind of ranking system, so you'd want to look into their methodology for the ranking system. One thing you'll notice here is that people can pay basically to be ranked towards the top of the list. Coinbase is ranked number 2 in this particular screenshot, but they paid to put themselves at the top, and then AEX paid go from number 23, at least on the screen show them, but you can see the rankings for like Gemini and other ones here too as well. Again, just because they're listing in certain countries that might not be your own, that's fine. You want to just find ones that are in your country as far as that are supportive of that. So that's a good place to start. A really even better place is CoinMarketCap. CoinMarketCap, you can look up cryptocurrencies, you can look up exchanges. There's a whole lot of stuff you can look up with CoinMarketCap. It's a real go-to site for people interested in cryptocurrency. And they also have a rankings, CoinMarketCap.com, rankings, exchanges. You'll find the different types of exchanges that they look there too. And you see in the upper left where it says spot, derivatives, and DEX. Those are the different types of exchanges we talked about. You'd want to look at, probably be looking at spot as far as a typical cryptocurrency exchange. And they also have a ranking system. You can see this is in rank order, and they give it an exchange score. And they base a lot of that on the size of the exchange and also the security of the exchange in terms of how safe your cryptocurrency is if you leave it on the exchange. So you can see like a big cryptocurrency like exchange like Binance, billions of dollars of exchange. And if you go to the far right where it says fiat supported, there's many, they list a few, and then there's 43 more, so about 46 different currencies supported. So that's why a lot of people use Binance, because it supports a lot of different currencies, a lot of different local areas. Plus, it carries a lot of number of coins. There's a lot of coins that it carries. So you see 331 there, as opposed to the number 3 one there, Coinbase Pro, which at the time was carrying 46. Doesn't mean, and they add coins all the time. So when you look at it, this will change. But if you go down to Bitstamp, was 13. So you get a lot more coin selection. If you're really interested in altcoins and things, that's where you'd want to look at the number of coins that are supported. And then lastly, a nice little site too, BitcoinTradingSites.net, and they've got all sorts of different information. They've got a little spot for best Bitcoin brokers you can look at and other types of reviews. But you can also find trading sites by country. That's one thing I like here, is where you can click on the down menu there they have, and you can look at it by country. And then you can just click into your country, and it'll give you a list of different Bitcoin sites, at least that trade Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, and you can kind of compare them side by side. So that's a nice little one too as well. Again, the main thing you'll want in an exchange is something that is your local currency, but also that you're comfortable with, that you're happy with, that you feel easy for you to use, and also apply the technical analysis type concepts that we're learning in the course, that it has the ability to do that. So with that, there are some places to get you started, and you can start researching those sites when you're ready to start trading. So one question you want to ask yourself is, where should I store my cryptocurrency? Where does it exist? And is there different options for that? And there's advantages and disadvantages to every option. So let's talk about that. Hopefully you've been you'll make some great profit on your cryptocurrency exchanges. Now, what do you do with that profits, and where do you keep that cryptocurrency? Where do you store it? So let's talk about some of the options with that. Now, the most common way, and what a lot of traders do, is they'll leave it on the cryptocurrency exchange, right? You put your money on the exchange, and then it's very accessible for trading, right? Your money's there. It could be converted into Tether, converted into Bitcoin, or however it's converted, and then you can use that to buy and sell all sorts of different types of cryptocurrencies. So you leave it on the exchange, and money that isn't invested sits in your account, let's say on the exchange, and is just sitting there waiting to be invested, maybe something new to buy. And it's all out there on the exchange in your account is where your actual money is. Now, the problem with that, or one of the challenges, is cryptocurrency exchanges they're vulnerable to hacks. I mean, this is one of the long-standing, especially in the early days of cryptocurrency, there's lots of these horror stories of these exchanges getting hacked and these cryptocurrencies just disappearing. And there was no real recourse for people. They could sue, maybe try to get some money from the exchange, but it was just kind of bad stuff, right? So they are vulnerable to exchange hacks, and understand that, particularly if you have a lot of cryptocurrency out there and you want to take some money off, that you might want to take some money off that exchange and then put it back on when you're ready to trade it again. And usually when people take it off an exchange, they would put in what's called a cryptocurrency wallet. And there's different types of wallets out there. There are hot wallets and cold wallets. And it's a place to put your money other than completely cashing out your money, converting it to your fiat currency, withdrawing it completely, and then using it to buy a boat or a car or invest in something else or pay your bills, whatever it may be, right? But if you want to keep it in its cryptocurrency format, and so it's easy to then put back on an exchange, an example, you would need like a hot wallet or a cold wallet. So basically the difference between them, a hot wallet is it's highly accessible to the funds, so it's all digital, it's all electronic, it's connected to the internet, and as you can see, because it's connected to the internet, it's vulnerable to hacking and phishing and different types of things out there. So it's basically you've taken off your exchange and put it on this hot wallet, but your hot wallet's still all digital as well too. So it gives you ease of use to go back and forth and then put, let's say, back on the exchange, and it's all electronic, and that's good too because you got some kind of redundancy. There's sort of backups with electronics and digital backup and all that, but in the cloud, so to speak. But it's also vulnerable to phishing and hacking, maybe less so than the actual exchange. It might be a way to think of it. As opposed to a cold wallet, which is more secure, highly secure. It's not connected to the internet. It's not connected to anything. It's off the digital, landscape, so to speak. It makes the funds less accessible. You have access to them. They're on a physical device, but you have to kind of then, connect it back into the internet and then transfer it into an exchange, for example. A little bit more, a little more time consuming to do that. Not the end of the world to do it, easy to do, but very easy to do, but not as quick and efficient as, let's say, a hot wallet. But the whole idea of a cold wallet is you're going to get a lot more security. You're taking that off the internet where you're going to make it certainly not vulnerable to phishing and hacking type schemes. And if you're curious, you can go do an internet search around some of the different companies that provide these different types of wallets. So you can see and they'll give you more information about why their version or why their hot wallet is better than a cold wallet or whatever. So those are some ways to do some extra research around that if you'd like. Some of the bigger known or well-known hot wallet companies are, Exodus, Electrum, Mycelium. If you search any of those, you're going to find out lots of information around hot wallets. And for cold wallets, a couple that have been around for a long time actually are Ledger and Trezor, are a couple of the cold wallets out there. And you can see the example here in the picture of a Ledger one. You can see it's just a physical device, and you can put your cryptocurrency basically on that physical device. Now, you could probably say, well, what if I lose my physical device? Then you lost your cryptocurrency. So just be aware of that too. So, there's a lot of things you got to consider when you're thinking about your money there. And in terms of some advice or some of those, some ways to think about it, what you want to do is if you've got funds and you're actively trading those funds, then it's okay to leave them on exchange because you're constantly buying and selling, and that's kind of that core amount of money or crypto that you're that you're trading, right? So you leave that exchange because you want that to be, easy to do. So if you get on and you're doing an evaluation, like I want to buy now, then you want to be able to just do it right away, and you can have that in exchange. If you have a lot of crypto though, that's really becoming inactive, it's always just sitting in your account, just kind of sitting there, not doing anything, to give it a little more security, then put it in a hot or cold wallet. And we learn the differences between those, and you can kind of make a choice there. For things that are inactive and then they're ready to come back on the exchange if you were deciding you want to trade more with that money, but otherwise, if it's a little bit more inactive, put it in a hot or cold wallet. And if you've got some real large sums of inactive crypto, then to keep it even more secure would be to put it in a cold wallet, to add that security, although you still have to watch that you don't lose your wallet and all that. And that's where you might at that point start converting it to a fiat currency, putting your bank, investing it somewhere else, whatever it is we want to do, to give it, again, more security on top of that. So you're basically looking at convenience versus security is where you're going to fall in these different things. But in the end, it's whatever works best for you. I mean, it all depends on what you're doing now. If you're getting started and all your money you're using is basically for a lot of active trading, particularly if you're like a day trader or something and you're constantly closing positions each day, then you're going to want to leave your funds on your exchange. If you're somebody who's had some success and you're like, I want to take some money out of the market now, then I might want to put that in a wallet, hot or cold, or maybe you can convert it to fiat. So either way, it's up to you how you want to do it. The key is that you understand that you have options, and then to choose the best option that works best for you.